welcome back to Growing Abroad with Maddie Delmore. Today we have a very special guest, Zach, who I currently work with in the Study Abroad office, is here to talk about his experiences a little bit. So if you want to introduce yourself, Zach.
Yeah, well, thank you, Maddie. Um, I'm Zach May. I am a graduating fifth year student. I graduate this December, and I'm a Spanish and Latin American Studies dual major. I studied abroad in two locations. I did the study abroad through the CIE in spring 2022 in Valparaiso, Chile. And then in the summer of 23, I went to Mendoza, Argentina. Um, and so, yeah, that's just like a little bit introduction about me. And so I'm kind of excited to see where this goes and where Maddie takes this.
Cool. Thank you, Zach. Zach was very lucky to go on two separate study abroad trips, so he's going to talk about those a little bit. So, for both Chile and Argentina, where did you stay during your trips? Did you have a host family or?
Yeah. So, in both locations, I stayed with a host family. When I stayed in Chile, I lived with a literal family, host mom, host dad, and then I had two siblings who lived in the house. And then when I was in Argentina, I just lived with one guy. He was probably like in his 40s, and we shared the apartment, so that was pretty fun.
Okay. So did he have to sign up to get to have a host student live with him, or how did that arrangement come about?
I'm not entirely sure. I know that with the Argentina program, they just kind of look for people who are willing to host students. And this Argentina program is through the faculty-led international immersion, so the process might be just a little different. But he was a great host. Even though it wasn't like a family, we still had great conversations, and it was nice to kind of. It was like my first experience having a roommate and living in an apartment, so it was really fun.
Do you still talk to him or your other host family?
Um, I wish I could say I did all the time. I've just been really busy, and two, sometimes I feel like I'm annoying them. So
Zach,
it makes-
annoying? I don't think so.
but it makes me think, I should, especially to tell them that I'm graduating soon. I think they'd be super proud of me.
Yeah, I think they would too. So I guess were those two countries that you went, were they extremely similar, extremely different? Did you experience any culture shock for either one of them when you were there?
I'd say especially in Chile, that being my first time studying abroad was definitely the biggest culture shock experience for me. And I think when talking about culture shock, we think about the really big things. Like obviously living in a bigger city, different language barrier in my case, different types of currency, um, different heritage, culture, all that stuff. Those really big things are what most people think about.
Right.
Um, so those are expected, and those are the things you kind of mentally prepare for. You look on Google, Reddit, TikTok, whatever, to kind of talk about those differences and see how what those look like. But I'd say the biggest ones are the really small, nitpicky ones, of like just kind of how to exist, which those tend to start building up, and that can be very stressful. I think for me, one of my biggest culture shocks was having to ask my host mom to grab food from the pantry for me, right? And so, at home, I'm so used to just going in the refrigerator,
Right.
grabbing food when I want, and grabbing what I want. But in Chile, I had to ask my host mom.
Were they all was every family like that where you had to ask, do you think, or was it just her specific set of rules?
I think it was her specific set of rules. I won't lie, that is still one of the biggest moments of I guess culture shock I still think about, just because they're so unexpected. And it was the one that I did go in my room and cry about. I don't know why.
I think I might cry too if I had to ask every time I wanted a little snack.
And it
but
wasn't
makes
because
sense.
I had to like ask for the food, right?
Right.
But it was because like I just did it, and she was like, she said to me, as most I think host families would, make yourself at home.
Right.
Mi casa es su casa, right?
To some extent.
Yeah. And then in parentheses, to some extent.
Yeah.
And so I was, acting like it was my house, in which in my house I opened the pantry, grab my food, and then go on my way. And I opened the pantry, and she's like, this is your house, but there are also rules in this house. I was like, okay. And then I went in my room and like cried for like 5 minutes. I didn't cry for like 5 whole minutes, but I called my mom. It was like, I can't do this, So that was probably like the one moment I still think about, because it was one I didn't expect.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I liked how you talked about just how to exist. And that was the biggest thing that was a surprise to you, or the most shocking, because I think a lot of people talk about language barriers and stuff like that. But you know Spanish, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it probably was a little bit easier for you to navigate that part of it.
Yeah.
I suppose.
What was I going to say? But yeah, it's like those little things that students don't necessarily expect that tend to like get to them. And I think that's really important for them to know. Because like, yes, you can go into your study abroad experience and like act like yourself as you would here at Eau Claire or in the United States, whatever. And you can do that, but you have to make sure also that like you learn to adapt yourself to like the new cultural set of values, right? Like if you're studying around Chile, Argentina, Italy, England, Thailand, wherever, you do need to be sure to eventually make that shift into operating under those the norms and values of your host country, or at least have those in mind when you start doing things, because that's going to give you, I think, a more authentic experience. It's going to help mitigate some of that culture shock, and also locals will, I think, appreciate it that you're like also trying to immerse yourself in that culture.
I think so too. I mean, especially when I was in Italy, it was challenging, I think, for some students that I was in the program with to adjust to the like informal dress code of just like walking around the city or going to class, because I think a lot of times here in like Eau Claire and in the States, we'll just wear like sweatpants, sweatshirt, put our hair up in a bun or whatever. And in Italy, they really value like looking presentable when you're like in the work setting, or when you like walk out of your apartment or go to class and stuff like that. And that's like a lot of things that you can't look up on the internet. So I think, you just have to kind of be in that place for a little bit, and then, be open to adjusting and not try to fight it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think in both of my schools, like in Chile and Argentina, everyone was more or less dressed up. In Chile, my school was the PUCV, and the study abroad immersion program takes place in the law school there. And so you'd walk in, and everyone's like dressed up very nicely. They put a lot of effort into their clothing and making sure, that they look like boss students. You can very much tell that there is some unwritten rule, some informal rule where it's like you have to dress up. And so, I wore sweatpants once, and my friend that I met there, he was making fun of me that I showed up to school in my, pajamas and my sweatpants, saying that like I need to look presentable, or the other people are gonna tear me apart behind my back.
Yeah, it's like nothing really bad is gonna happen, but if you just want to feel a little more
preppy or whatever,
I don't know, like you blend in a little better or something.
Avoiding what they'll say about you or behind your back. I don't know.
Oh, that's Okay, so basically, I brought you on here specifically because I know that study abroad has influenced your future a lot and how you will be going about your career. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about what your next steps are after you're graduating, because you're graduating this in a month, right? Or less than a month?
Yeah, so I mean, at the time of recording, I graduate on the 16th, and so we're recording this on a Wednesday, and the 16th is a Saturday. So I've got
This Saturday.
this Saturday, and I've got
Ooh.
about 3 days left until I walk across the stage in my cap and gown, my stole, which represents the countries I studied abroad in, and
Ooh.
all
Zach.
that stuff. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, so I guess what did you think you were going to be doing after graduation, and what are you doing now or planning on doing after you've been abroad?
Yeah. So if you'll allow me to monologue.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
So when I started college, when I went to UW Eau Claire, I knew I wanted to do something with languages. I came in as a Spanish education major with a teaching English to speakers of other languages minor. And that's kind of what I felt was expected of me, right? I applied as a freshman, Spanish education, and I worked through, all of the required courses as normal. But as I started to approach about that second half of my college career, my junior year, I started to really think about if being a teacher was what I wanted to do. I'm not going to get too much into the politics, but just seeing in Wisconsin and how teachers are treated now and how the government really wants a big say on what teachers can and can't teach. I didn't know if that was something I wanted to deal with and kind of be have people scrutinize me just for teaching and trying to do some good work to the community I'm in. And so that's something I really carried with me a lot. And then I studied abroad in Chile. And this study abroad opened a whole new,
Just
a whole new
door
world.
and world.
I mean, literally, it's my
Yeah.
magic carpet was the United Airlines flight, or whatever American Airlines flight
Oh,
from
perfect
Chicago
analogy.
to Santiago to Viña, whatever. And I was able to see what study abroad was like physically, mentally, visually, obviously. But I also talked with my host site coordinators from study abroad, both in Chile and here in Eau Claire, to I just talked with them to see what they were doing, and when they would talk about it, it would get me excited because
Right.
I thought it was just super cool. And so I was abroad in Chile, minding my own, really enjoying the whole learning about culture, learning about the Spanish, speaking the Spanish. I took a literature course, which I loved. I discovered I really loved reading when I sit down and actually, read the books they want me to.
That's my problem too.
Really like poetry. I took a dance class. All of those things, very culturally important things. I just loved doing that. And for me, and so all those things were super transformative. And it just got me excited. Because I had so much fun on my abroad, I felt like I learned so much about myself, another culture, and I learned more about the world around me. And I think my place as a U.S. citizen in the world, it was just eye-opening. I talked to my host mom, and she was like, "You Americans always XYZ or something. You Americans aren't politically active. Oh, you Americans only watch pointless TV.
Mm-hmm.
You Americans spend, Which, when I listened to it the first time, I was kind of offended, right? Because
I think I would be too.
I was a little offended, and
She really went off there.
She did.
But, yeah.
And I had to stop and ask myself, why do I feel this way? Because I was why do I feel this way?
Why are you offended?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because I was kind of acting like an American.
Mm-hmm.
That
the stereotypical.
No.
Nope.
Not that way. Not the stereotypical, but the USA is so great, United States, like what we do is perfect, it makes the most sense. And outside looking in, you kind of realize that it doesn't necessarily make the most sense, or that there are other structures around the world that work better.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to have that perspective when you've only lived in the US and you haven't maybe been out of the country before. It was really kind of eye-opening for me too, being in Italy and just seeing how much bigger the world actually is than just our like system and way of doing things. Just because we do it one way doesn't mean that there's not a better way being done somewhere else or a different way.
Yeah. And it's so like all this perspective. And so what I mean to say with all of this is that all of this perspective and whatnot really changed me. Which sounds so cliche. And that kind of guided me towards applying to be a study abroad intern and looking into more study abroad related things, So I came back, you might relate to this, and I'll be honest, I came back and I cried.
Yep.
Like every day for like 2 months.
It's hard to
2
be
months.
back, yeah.
It was hard. No, because, unless you've studied abroad, you might not understand this completely. But you kind of, you form a whole new life over there, a whole new identity with different groups of people.
Yep.
You have different sets of experiences. Any drama that you have here is not carry over abroad. So you're like a double life.
You are, yeah.
So you have like a double life and you leave that behind and you have to mourn that loss. And
it's like it's not like you're coming back and starting over and having a new identity, new group of friends, all this. You're kind of returning to what you were before you went abroad. So it almost seems just like you're going backwards sometimes, which can be really hard.
Yeah, and it's definitely hard because you come back with all of this perspective. You come back with these experiences that you want to talk about and be super excited about. And then you come back home to your old friend group, your friends, your family, and you feel like you've changed so much and that your friends haven't changed at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this conflict, this struggle, right, where you want to continue being that new and transformed person, but your friends
aren't being maybe as receptive to...
aren't receptive to that change, or they don't want to talk about your experiences, which is something I went through, right? So I'd be like, I studied abroad, and they're like, okay, that's cool.
What else is new? Yeah, I know. It seems like every single day it comes up in conversation one way or another, like, oh, when I was abroad, and then I catch myself saying it, and I immediately feel bad for my friends. Yeah, but it's just like, it was such a big part of, like, my life and who I am now. Mm-hmm. So it's something I want to talk about too.
And so, like I was saying, there's like that conflict, right? And so I tried to figure out ways to, how can I continue letting study abroad be a big part of my life? And how can I like impart that experience onto other people? And so, I applied for the study abroad job, like I mentioned earlier, as a student intern, and I got it. And I started training, and I was just surrounded by other study abroad alumni, who make up, the study abroad interns and everyone in the International Education Office. And I immediately felt like it was the place I wanted to be because I was surrounded by like-minded individuals who are very passionate about studying abroad, who want others to study abroad, who are also transformed by their experiences and want to give that opportunity and help other students achieve that. And I think that was the biggest draw for me. And so I, day one, loved the position I was working in, and I wanted to figure out how I can continue doing that. And so, again, going back to how this changed my life and my degree path, monologuing.
No, love it.
So like I said, I was a Spanish education major. And I was sitting in one of my Spanish classes, and I was at my professor's office hours later, and I sat down and said to her, I don't know if I want to teach. I think about the thoughts. I think about going into a classroom and teaching and working with kids. It fills my head with sadness.
Oh,
It does not bring me joy. And so we kind of had this conversation over the course of like 3 or 4 weeks. And I met with my teacher advisor, Dr. Halas, and she's great. And she mentioned, Zach, you kind of keep bringing this up. And not in like a, Zach, you keep bringing this up, this is annoying me. But in a, if you're having like this doubt over a continuous period of time, like maybe this isn't for you. And I had to struggle with feeling like I was giving up on myself.
Yeah, I mean, that was your junior year, right? Or
My senior year, sorry.
your senior year.
Yeah, I studied abroad my spring of my junior year. So my senior year, I was kind of making that change in my major.
And that's a big change to make senior year.
Especially when
it can be scary.
You know, once you make it so far in your program, you know what classes you have left in the track and XYZ. And so one day I was just sitting in, again, another professor's office, Dr. Casey. You know, I thank her a lot for kind of guiding me towards this. And she said, you know what, Zach, let's do this. Let's switch your major just to Spanish, drop the education portion, and see how you feel. And I said, I don't know. She's like, let's do it. So I dropped my major that day.
Wow.
The education major. And I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, which was great. But then it created the problem of...
what am I going to do now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, you know, teacher track, it's expected to become teacher. And I'm like, well, great. I'm just a Spanish and Latin American studies major. And now what? So I started asking around, especially in the study abroad office. I was like, what can I do and whatnot with these degrees? And the big thing was, well, the people I would ask in the office would ask, Zach, do you like study abroad? And I said, yes, I do. They're like, well, why don't you look into international education? Again, I was an intern, and so we would talk about these things when I was in the office. I'd stop by, like, Jacqueline's office or Michaela's office, and we'd just talk very briefly, just for a few minutes, about, like, what that meant to them. And that, again, solidified, like, where I wanted to be. And that kind of sets me up to where I am now. So, like, right now, currently, as I'm getting ready to graduate, I'm applying and looking at grad school programs and looking at jobs, and most of them are in international education as a master's program, and or working at, like, applying to jobs with API, who helps provide us with like international internships, and USAC, who is one of the organizations we work with here, as like a program manager, and seeing myself, like imagining myself either pursuing that master's route or that graduate school route, makes me really excited.
That's good. I can tell when you talk about studying abroad, working in the international education instead of working in a classroom.
Monologued it for like 15 minutes.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. No, I'm excited for you because I think this is going to be a really good fit for you and your future. That's amazing. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that part of your academic journey with us and professional journey. So I guess we kind of talked about, how going abroad influenced your life a little bit when you came back.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A lot of it.
Yeah, we did. Do you think study abroad has benefited you in other areas of your life besides work and school? Maybe with some of your friendships or just how you see things?
Definitely. I definitely think having gone abroad has benefited my life. In just so many other areas. Gosh, where do we even start? Well, for the most part, I feel much more confident and sure of myself. And I think that was something I kind of struggled with before going abroad, of who I was and what my identity is, and who is Zach May.
Yeah.
I mean, that solidified it solidified. Yeah, solidified that. Solidified that. And that's just because I gained a lot of independence, right? I lived with the host family, but I had to be responsible to getting myself. Well, this sounds like just typical day in Eau Claire, pretty much. But I had to be responsible to getting myself to school, feeding myself. I did a lot of trips. I'm not going to say that I planned all my trips. Sometimes I would just hop on. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Sophia. Angela, for help. Lucas, thank you for planning those. It's just like me hop along.
Yep.
But, there's an autonomy you gain there, which was just, I guess, eye-opening, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot different than just getting to school when you're in Eau Claire.
Yeah, I mean, I live in the dorm, so I have to walk down the hill. I mean, that's not very challenging for me.
And I don't know about you, but everything is in English. And when I was in Italy, trying to navigate the streets of Italy and the building names and stuff, everything in Italian. So that was part of the reason why it was such a big, independence booster.
Yes, definitely. I really... Again, you mentioned that everything was in English here and then in Italian in Italy. So things in where I was were in Spanish, obviously South America, pretty much. And I kind of realized that I had to use a lot of thinking, but putting things together, context clues, things you did in 6th grade English, AP English, putting clues together. This word looks like another word I know in Spanish.
Yeah, so this is why I got an education. This is why I've been going to school.
Yeah, it's all
coming together.
Exactly. And if I was confused, right here, you can kind of just go to an office or ask anyone in English. Mm-hmm. But I had to do that in Spanish, or I would just try to Google.
Yeah,
Google
and
is
it's
my
also
best friend.
a whole nother challenge trying to find the office or the person that you're supposed to even be talking
even
to.
Even if that's provided that there is an office.
If there is one, yeah.
And so I remember one time this is one of my biggest, proudest moments of my Spanish, is that we were buying tickets to Santiago. I think it was Santiago, to connect to some other city. And I was the person. Everyone was like, I don't want to talk to the person. I'm so scared. I'm not confident in my Spanish. And I was like, okay, I got this.
I got to step up in this moment.
Step up. And so I go to the lady, and I'm like, hey, hola. We need to buy tickets to Santiago. Can you help us? And she was super helpful. And I had to ask the questions and problem solve and be like, what time does this leave? All things that if you've taken Spanish in high school or Spanish here, 202, 203, it's those
very
asking for directions.
Basic questions that you must know how to ask.
And I was really proud of that, because then I left and I had 4 tickets, however many tickets in my hand. And so that was a win.
I'm proud of you.
So that was
yeah, no, definitely a big confidence builder, independence builder. I always talk about how before I went abroad, I was just kind of a scared little freshman, sophomore. Couldn't really stand up in front of a class if I had to and talk or do anything like this, let alone. And so, study abroad definitely helped me find my identity too, and my kind of voice, if you will.
Yeah.
Especially for, and I didn't really see I didn't see that really happen until I came back. Too. So it wasn't like I was abroad and aware that I was working on these skills of myself.
Yeah, study abroad is a huge, the entire thing is pretty much a problem solving.
It's a puzzle, yeah.
It's
super fun.
Trying to navigate different country, different culture, different language maybe. Mm-hmm. And the whole experience is figuring out how to do that.
But it's fun
on the way. It is fun. It was a challenge that I felt like I needed at the time. It's a feeling I'm still chasing.
Yeah.
That I want to experience again.
It's a little dopamine.
A huge dopamine rush. Mm-hmm. But.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to, that whole problem solving, I was just thinking about my classes.
Oh.
and like what my school day looked like.
What did that look like?
So at first the problem was, how the heck am I getting to school? Because I walk here, and I could walk. I could have walked to school, but that's about an hour.
Oh
Walk.
my gosh, no. You couldn't have walked.
I mean, it's like it's like 2 miles, but
But every day, you have a schedule.
there and back, right?
Yeah.
So a typical day for me, and I'll say this probably solidified 3 weeks in, was I'd wake up at 8 in the morning, and I would go to the gym. I'd walk like 3 blocks, pump some iron,
Ooh,
run a
and
little
then
bit, some
walk.
cardio. Yeah. I'd shower before school because sweaty at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd get ready for school. I'd change. And then we had to take the Micro. And the Micro is just a bus. It's like it looks like a Greyhound-ish type. But it's not really Greyhound. Who am I kidding? But it's a bus. And you get on. You pay the fee every day. It was 500 pesos. I don't know if it's gone up, but that's like 60 cents.
Oh, okay.
So 60 cents there, 60 cents back. Really affordable. And they came like every 10, 12 minutes. And so I'd have to say, okay, I have to leave at like 9:30 to catch the earliest Micro, at least for me, to get to school about like half an hour early. And if I miss that, then I have to wait to get the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like a 10-minute drive to school, and they'd pick up people along the way. It was very quick. I get to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have class. And I usually did the readings, or I was prepared for class. I did my
Like a
grammar
good
assignments.
student?
Like a good student, because, what else did I have to do? I wish I kept the academic drive as much. But so I'd go to school and hang out with my, my U.S. friends and my Chilean friends, depending on the day. Just waiting.
Monday, U.S. students.
Tuesday. Yeah, they're just rotating. But I think the best thing about class was, one, our professors understood that we were, from the U.S. And it took some courage in my classes, because I had one professor for literature, and she was super passionate about it. But sometimes she spoke very quickly. And the Chilean accent, they said, why did you choose Chile to study Spanish? We have the worst accent. Everyone says we speak poorly. All this stuff.
Had you heard that before you chose Chile?
No.
No. Okay.
And so I was like, aside from like the Spanish professor I had here, my immersion experience was Chilean Spanish. And so hearing the other accents really threw me for a loop. Anyway, but like in our class, sometimes my professor, she would speak very quickly, or heavily accented.
But she was teaching to all American students, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
She just had a lot of faith in you guys.
She did. And so some of us had to be that student to raise our hands and be like, excuse me? Huh? Like, what did you just say? Can you repeat it again? And that was usually me. What can I say?
Okay.
What can I say?
Okay.
But that helped me understand more, helped the professor kind of gauge where we were at, and then it also helped the students who weren't as confident in their Spanish, like, understand the question.
Yeah.
But, my workload, I took 18 credits there. It felt like 15. Probably 12.
Well, yeah, you had the dance class too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
And
so
so
fun.
every day there was like one class that was like kind of more rigorous, like literature, and then the other day would be more relaxed, like my conversation class, my dance class, or something. I'd eat lunch at school, talk to my friends. They gave us an hour for lunch. That's just like built into the course schedule. And then I'd usually leave school at around like 4 or 5.
And you would get there around like 8, or you would wake up at 8.
Yeah.
So you would get there probably like 10.
Or 11 is usually when my classes started. And I'd leave at like 4 or 5 to take the Micro to back home. It was rush hour, so that would take like 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
10 minutes there, 45 back.
Yeah.
But
So I think the cool thing was, like, in my group at least, was that most of us were like-minded individuals who were very passionate about A, learning, and B, international education. I met some really good friends. My friend Gabby, she was super passionate. She loved the culture.
So when you talk about your group, is that the faculty-led group or?
Oh, no, this is Chile. I'm mainly talking about my Chile experience here.
Okay.
Well, like Gabby, she was super great she was just another person.
Do they all go to Eau Claire?
No. Gabby went
Okay.
to Buffalo, No, some school.
Nice. So these are just like other American students that you met abroad?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Who had like that international mindset, I met someone, his name was Liam. He studied international relations, seeing his passion like come out and seeing his excitement for like cultural artifacts, museums, all of that stuff.
Oh my gosh, same.
It made me jealous because I thought I was passionate.
I know.
I wish I was like so much
Just at his level.
at his level
Yeah,
of passion for learning and culture and
I know. I had a friend named Kinley, and the first time we went to the Uffizi Museum in Italy, she was like almost peeing her pants. She did not pee her pants. I don't know why I said that. Sorry, Kinley. But she was so like stoked to be there, and she just loved every bit of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's great to be around people like this. I wish I was that excited or knew all of the artists that she was looking forward to seeing and stuff like that. But it was still really cool. And I think like
the nerd out.
yeah, like I went kind of by myself abroad, and I guess I didn't really know anybody else here who was like geeking out about traveling and stuff like that. But then when you go abroad, you're meeting people from all over, like U.S. or wherever, who are also just as excited to like see the world as you are, and so then you feel like you're in such like a community of just people.
It feels
who
so
wanna
safe.
learn. And yeah, it's so safe. Yeah. And that's like their goal is just to like learn and travel and see the world, and it just feels like there's never any like drama or unnecessary. I don't know.
And if there
conflict
is,
sometimes.
the cool thing is that you don't have to see them ever again.
You never have to see them again.
If there's drama on your study abroad, with someone from another school or someone from your host country, it's really water under the bridge because, I mean, the second you board that plane, they're gone.
Yeah. So I think that helps to kind of, and it's a good like motivator to be your true like self and not try to pretend to be someone you're not during your study abroad
Oh, for sure.
experience. You can do whatever you want, just be who you really are.
Because you take all of the knowledge about yourself that you've learned over college, and then you get to directly apply that to a study abroad where no one knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Here you have all those histories with people, good or bad, drama, no drama. But people kind of like, oh, that's Maddie, and she XYZ, she was a little fun, or oh, she was really mean to me one day at my freshman year, and I've never liked her since. Well,
Zach, I heard that about you.
but like Kinley,
Kinley, yeah.
yeah, Kinley didn't know that about you,
No, she didn't.
and
We're
so
besties.
exactly, and so that's something I really like.
Yeah, no.
And all of my
That's
my
interesting.
memories were with those people. Like my study abroad group in Chile were like 7 from Eau Claire, and then like the 4 or 5 other people I really got along with. And most of all of my good memories are with them. I went to
Same.
the Atacama Desert with them. It was just drama free. People who were like, I'm so excited to go hiking. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to go in the Salt
Sightseeing.
Lagoon. Sunburn. Heat. I went to the Patagonia. Cold. 20-mile walks.
And you're going through it together. You're going on. You're like complaining,
Exactly.
but you're loving it, and you're like,
I'm like complaining. You know what? My knees did hurt within the first mile
worth it.
of the hike. But guess what? I kept going. And you know what happened? I couldn't walk the next day.
Ah.
So it's just like the memories with the people that you meet there where you can be yourself. If you have doubts about studying abroad, talk to people you know. But then also, just do it.
Just do it.
I have not met anyone yet that has regretted their study abroad experience or any immersion experience that they've done. They've been super grateful and happy with the experience they had.
Yeah, it's so funny because my last episode I interviewed someone who went to Thailand, and I asked her the same question, what advice would she give? And she literally just said, just do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no. Everyone will tell you the same thing. Like, you're never going to regret it. And it'll be a great experience.
Yeah. So go somewhere new this is also the best time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
In your undergrad or postgrad, who knows, or like grad school, right?
Yeah,
Because,
when are you going to get 4 months off of work?
yeah, you don't have, if you have a partner,
Maybe.
but like what other commitments do you have here? I guess if you do a sport, whatever. But like, yes, you're paying for it, but like, if you take 4 months off of work, that's a lot of time.
And you're paying for it, but you're also getting a lot of resources that you wouldn't otherwise have, like somewhere to live.
Yeah, you're paying for housing, meals.
Yeah.
You can get scholarships. It's also just like the experience is worth every penny.
Mm-hmm.
Every penny. And so I would consider it, even if it's for, like, let's say it's a smaller program, 3 weeks, faculty-led international immersion.
Oh, got it.
Huh? I coughed at the mic. No, I can't. Cut it.
Podcast ruined.
But even if you're not sure, like, you can do one of the smaller programs, right?
You could go in winter.
You can go in winter. A shorter program is what I mean by smaller. Like 3 weeks, you can do a faculty-led immersion for those range between 10 days to 21.
And then you can even go on 2 if you really like it, like Zach did.
Yeah.
You could go in winter, and then you're like, well, I love this. I'm going to go a whole semester in the fall.
Yeah.
So.
And so, it's worth every penny. Oh my gosh.
Every penny, every dime.
Every penny, every dime.
Every quarter.
Quarter, nickel, dollar.
$2
yen,
bill.
Euro, peso, whatever.
Oh, yeah, that was perfect. Yeah.
So, just
do it.
Just do it.
All right. We're gonna wrap it up, but thank you so much, Zach, for being the best interviewee ever and coming on here. And I also want to say congratulations on graduating soon, and I wish you the best of luck in your journey.
Thank you for having me. As you can see, I love talking about it. If I didn't have commitments and other things to do today, I would be talking for hours. I could talk hours about this. Maybe I'll start my own podcast where I just
competition.
Yeah, growing abroad versus.
Let's see it. What is the name?
Yeah,
it's a work in progress.
It's a WIP, but yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.